Welcome back. It's Monday night. Sports on the Hill podcast, True Radio Network, coming to you live from the lab. CP3 in here doing it again. Wish it was a victory Monday, but unfortunately it's not. We have a lot to talk about with this Washington football team. We already got a full panel on the line. It's a lot going on, a lot being talked about. We got the Alex Smith storyline, the Dwayne Haskins, the unfortunate injury to Kyle Allen. It was just a lot to talk about. A lot of folks are questioning things and back talking, but that's what the fans do. And there's some journalists out there that's putting some spin media out there that I'm definitely gonna speak on. I got a whole checklist and everything. Normally I don't do that, but yeah, we definitely gonna talk about this stuff because I know we got dude Janae on the line. I know he gonna have some nice words to back up some of the stuff I'm talking about. But Robbie G, how you doing tonight, good sir?
I'm doing okay. I was very disappointed with that loss. I'll say that. We had so many opportunities to win that game, and we let it slip through our fingers. I feel in a similar way about the going for two. That was at least going for the win, and I understand. We had a conversation which we'll bring up at some point about what was going to happen in that final drive, and it was a frustrating result for sure. But I saw it coming. I wish I didn't, but like just too many mistakes and just disappointing overall. But I'm happy in general. I mean, obviously, we don't talk politics too much, but I'm happy with the results of the election. I will say that. Um, and I'm happy that I think that finally we'll maybe put an end to that, but who knows? But real quickly, before we got too far into it, I did want to say that two people that are really important to me in the TV and film world have passed in the last couple of weeks. So I wanted to. We didn't get to it last week. Last week was a super busy show, and then another person passed this week, and it made me think about how life is short and how important both Sean Connery and Alex Trebek were to me growing up. I was a huge 007 fan, and I think Sean Connery is the best to ever play Bond, and he's so incredible in so many roles. I just wanted to pay a little respect to him, and yeah, Alex Trebek. I grew up with Jeopardy. It was a big part of my life growing up. I remember eating dinner every night watching it, and for years and years and years. And he's been fighting it, and he did a valiant effort. And I'm happy that he got to that championship thing where he got to have some of the greats come on back on and all kind of give him his kudos, and had a great final couple of parts to his Jeopardy run. But it's such a tragic loss, both of them, and I just wanted to say rest in peace to both of them, and my condolences to their families. But back to the Washington football team. It was a frustrating game. I know that we'll break it down more. Well, the X's and O's. I'm excited to bring Dujane in as an outside perspective. I'm also excited to bring Brian in a few minutes, just to hear from a Giants fan's perspective. It's I don't know where this season goes from here. It's going to be a question that we want to talk about throughout the evening. Obviously, I think we should try to win every game. You never tank or anything like that. But what are we playing for the season? What are our goals for the rest of the season? What is the team striving to do? What do we do with the quarterback situation? These are all questions that are happening because, especially Cowboys game, so great, bye week. And then we thought we had a different coach and we'd have a different result out of the bye, and we didn't, Carol. And, it's frustrating as a fan that it just seems like after long rests, year after year, it seems to like somehow doom us. And I don't understand it. I thought it was Gruden. It clearly wasn't. I mean, and we had opportunities to win that game, which we'll talk about, but just disappointing overall. But those are some of my quick thoughts before. But what are your quick takeaways before we start to bring in some of our guests?
I mean, I can agree with some of the stuff that you had to say, but I'm always gonna look at it from a different perspective. And I was saying yesterday when I was tweeting out during the game, I feel like they were with all of those turnovers, they were pressing, they were trying to do too much. You can even look at the Logan with the fumble recovery that Logan Thomas should have had, but he tried to pick it up and run with it instead of, as they teach you, just fall on the damn ball. And I just think when those situations they were trying to do too much, they were trying to, I say, piggyback off of that Cowboys game, and we're trying to do too much. And when you try to do too much, that's when you make the mistakes. And the fact that they were 5 turnovers, but they were still only lost by 3. They were in the game. That they, even though they had to abandon their game plan and didn't come out the way they wanted to, they fought to the end. Unfortunately, it ended the way it did. We're definitely going to get talk about that because that's one of the hot button topics. Alex Smith and his late interceptions, and unfortunately, this is a part of the rebuilding process. Um, unfortunately, the injury to Kyle Allen, that put Smith in there. He had a decent second half, or while he was in there for most of the second. But those interceptions were costly. But they didn't cost us the game. It was the overall play of the team. They didn't play a full 60 minutes. That's what I was hoping for would be the biggest carryover from the Cowboys game, is playing 60 minutes. But we can definitely dig deeper into it. Let's go ahead and bring in Dujane and start breaking this thing down. Because I know he might have some choice words, some choice thoughts about this. Some quick thoughts before we really delve into it. What's going on, brother? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
It's been a crazy couple of days. I don't even want to get into it right now. We focused on having a great show. That could be another whole show in itself if I get into that stuff. What's going on with you, my brother? I know you had a lot going on the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, man. Lots going on. Lots of personal stuff going on, and then a lot of sports stuff going on. So it's all good though, man.
It's the grind, right? It's the fall. It's the season to be it, But I feel that. But I'm really curious, Dujane. I'll ask the first question of yours. Overall, there was so many opportunities to come back and win that game, and it was just so many missed opportunities. How do you? I mean, it's so frustrating as a diehard fan. Like, you're just in it, and you're just like, oh, they give me hope and they take it away, and they give me hope and they take it away. And it was like a brutal. From your perspective, what were your thoughts as you were sort of progressing through the almost comeback but falling short, obviously?
My initial thoughts were, I know some people were thinking probably same old Washington with the coming out the way they did after a bye week. I didn't think it was as sloppy as many would think it would be. It looked like a young football team that's trying to find its way. There's a lot of young players here for the first time, learning how to, after you win a game, you go to a bye week, learning how to work during that bye week, and then kind of come ready and prepared the following game after a bye week. I really just felt that they were trying, but trying too hard. Forgetting the little things, the simple things. I think Carol made a good point with the Logan Thomas trying to recover the fumble. You're trying to pick that thing up, instead of just falling on it. You had great field position. If you had just fell on it, you would have recovered it. That really, it really seems that the getting behind was the thing that did them in. But you got to give them a lot of credit for continuing to be in the game. They fought and almost mounted a comeback. For Alex Smith to come in and do what he did was pretty remarkable. Unfortunately, he didn't finish the job. But, it's a team, a young team learning and finding their way and finding out how to win, finding out how to gut out and grind out wins, how to be consistent week in and week out. And I thought people shouldn't be so mad. I can understand the disheartened because, man, they were right there. And even I thought that this was going to happen. They were going to mount a comeback, and Alex Smith was going to get a comeback win after all he's been through. And it didn't end that way. But I think people should be really positive about this football team. Again, they've lost some people, just as everybody else, but there's a lot of young pieces on this team that are growing, learning, making plays, not yet always consistent, but definitely the growth and what Ron's trying to do and building is definitely can be seen as there.
Carol, real quickly, I want to get your thoughts on all these second half comebacks or playing so well in the second half. That, to me, is the most frustrating part, is the second half of a lot of these games. We've played well. We may have screwed up at the very end, so you don't get that victory. But we were, as you were saying, Dujane, we were behind from the start. And I feel like if we played our first half like we played the second half in a lot of these games, we'd have 3 or 4 more victories. We've just kind of put ourselves behind, and our defense is like this Jekyll and Hyde. Like, our defense looks so much better in the second half of games, And Carol, what are your thoughts as a defensive guy? Why is there such a, I mean, we're one of the best in the entire league at second half defense, but like so bad in the first half that like overall our numbers are so bad.
Well, you kind of answered it. The offense in the first half of these games, unfortunately, hasn't been effective except for in the Cowboys game and a little bit in the I forgot who they played the week before that. We saw the offense pick up some. So, hold on, get my feedback. All right, and we saw this defense balling out in the first quarter when they got that fourth down stand. They were going to get the ball back and fumble on a punt return. So that was field position. Giants get points. Defense came out again, made a play, another turnover. So the defense was playing well, but the offense, gave the ball back. At that point, the game plan got changed, and the Giants' game plan changed because once they got the lead, they turned into a run-heavy team again and started running the ball, which, the defense had to adjust to. And the Giants have, a decent running game, nothing spectacular, but they had the momentum. And the defense made adjustments in the second half. That's one of the things that we didn't see previously is the adjustments being made. So I believe that's one of the key things why they're so effective in the second half because, excuse me, unfortunately, they played well, but the ending result of the first half hasn't shown that because the offense has been inconsistent and going 3-and-out and giving the other team opportunities. And this game with all the turnovers, I mean, I've never seen a first quarter, let alone first half of football like that from a team. And to still be in it, that's why I kept saying, as long as they get a field goal, they're still within two possessions. They're still within one possession. So it's not that bad, even though they've turned the ball over. They've given the Giants good field position to get points, and they've been holding it down for the most part. They only gave up 10 points on those 5 turnovers. But those 10 points hurt because that's the difference in winning the game. But I mean, the defense is still, like you say, trying to find itself. We saw the rookie. If you watched the pregame, I was talking about Cameron Curl getting in there, and the plan was to play him more in the box. But the Giants did some adjusting and had him in coverage more, and we saw him get exploited a few times. So I mean, it was a combination of things, but it's growing pains, and they're still trying to find themselves. There, people that were talking about Chase Young as a bust and all this, and comparing his numbers to Nick Bosa's numbers and all of this stuff, and saying that he isn't being coached right and all this and that. But if you watch the telecast and you see Montez Sweat going off and doing what he's doing his second year in the league, well, third year in the league, sometimes it takes time. Just because it's a freak of nature doesn't mean that he's going to hit the ground running. It would be great if he did. He started out.
I question the people who are saying that he's not playing well. I think he's playing fantastic, and he's getting players to have to play out of their position to like deal with him, which is opening up for other players, which is what you get him for. Like you need a bull to like draw in 2 people so that way other people get the action. So the Montez Sweats, they're getting sort of the leftovers, right? I mean,
they have like 12. They expect to have like 12 sacks by now. Most of these fans.
But I mean, that they know.
How do you feel about this situation about folks saying that he's overrated and he's a bust off? I don't agree with that. Only week 9 of the NFL season that anybody's a bust, but how do you feel about these folks and saying, and how do you rate Chase Young so far going through this season?
You know what I said about these fans when I stand by that nonsense. It's the most preposterous thing I've ever heard in my life. We all know, and Robbie eloquently laid it out. I mean, you got a guy like that, and see, this will start to become where Montez will be that guy as well because he's getting off now. So now when the opposing team decides to take him away, well, guess what? There's Chase Young waiting in the wings. There's a Ryan Kerrigan waiting in the wings. There's Payne. There's Allen. Name them. All right. But you need those guys to draw attention. And sometimes those guys eat. Sometimes they are setting up so others can eat. And that's important. I use a guy like Dana Stubblefield back in the day. You even look at a current day guy in Ndamukong Suh. He's there to eat up space. It's not all about him getting sacks all the time. Now, he's going to get his at times, but his job is to basically eat up space and to be that force that people will, gravitate to and game plan for. And then those guys on the outside will eat all day long. He's going to get his sometimes, because now when those guys on the outside eat, they think, okay, well, now we got to spread out a little bit. We're going to have to pick our poison and let Sue loose, and hopefully we can protect them. And a lot of times when they think they can do that in tough situations, guess what? Sue gets off. So it's the same thing with Chase Young. Chase has done an excellent job. You look at it's everything that we're talking about here. Everybody's want to equate things to sacks. Look at the stuff that he does as far as setting the edge, how important that is, filtering guys back in. I mean, previous seasons was difficult. Guys were bouncing outside so quick, and then, corners are getting gobbled up. And the next thing you're going to know, you got 10, 12-yard runs. So there's a lot of things that go into a guy playing, and that stuff, man, I'm telling you, like I said before, y'all know what I said about these fans. Come on, man. Like, you need to stop, really,
Well, we have to address it, because if we don't, we have to try to educate them in some way. Even though we know they're not going to listen, but at least we can go on the record and say we tried. So when they, when we go in on them, we can be like, well, we tried to tell you, but now I'm just going to yell it at you because obviously it didn't work. I'm going to have to use crayons and color pencils and that'll help you interpret, because obviously talking to you, like you at the same education level isn't working. But
right.
To me, it was an interesting game. This is an interesting season. We say that off the break with the whole COVID, no preseason, new coach, new quarterback, new offense. But everyone's questioning, the kid out in with the Los Angeles Chargers. He's playing well. Why is he playing well, and why they didn't put Haskins in and let him run with the team? I'm not gonna say this was his plan, that the quarterback would get hurt and he would bring Haskins back in, but he said in the beginning he wasn't done with him. He had some things to work on. And this is going to be a testament to Haskins, because Rivera said this is either going to make him or he's going to stay the same. This is going to determine where his path is going to be in the NFL as a quarterback. If he's going to look at on the sideline, pout, be immature, which we were all worried about when he unfollowed most of the players and team and all that on social media. But he's going to have a chance to prove himself, because Alex Smith is not going to play the whole rest of the season as starting quarterback. So I hope and I pray that he was actually working on his craft and his footwork, his mechanics, his technique, so he don't make those same mistakes when he gets a chance to get back in there. And then folks can really say, yeah, see, he's really a bust. If he sees, we saw some progress, but then we saw him regress and start doing the same things over and over again. We need to see him to continue to progress and not take those back slips when he, gets excited or doesn't do his, be consistent, because that's the whole key. Being consistent with your technique, your motion, your mechanics, that's what makes you a good quarterback. And he has to do that. And I'm hoping that he's been working on that while he's been inactive. And that's all everybody's talking about. You can't come back from that. No way that a first round pick is going to play for them again. I mean, if you have that mentality, that's cool. But if you're a football player that's trying to prove himself and get on the field and know you have more developing to do, then you're going to be open to that. If you're immature and be like, well, I'm good, I got to get out of here. If I go somewhere else, they'll let me start and I'll be better, and don't put the work in, then he's going to be a bust. And that's just my opinion. What about you, Dujanae?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about putting in the work. I don't necessarily agree about how they went about it, but at the end of the day, if you're trying to win, and that's what they were trying to do, you know how I feel about winning in this division. Although I'm not, let's backtrack. To come out and say that we're going to try to win is kind of an idiotic statement, and here's why. You don't ever go out trying to lose, do you? Is that what you're trying to do? Because you're not. You put the best 53 out there so that you can get a win. And Ron felt that, and I don't disagree with that. Ron felt that he needed to take a step back and take a look. I don't think that happens at third string, but I know there's other things that off the field that you can work on, but that's neither here nor there. Now he's back at the backup position. I don't have a problem with Alex starting. And my reasoning on that, I did a ghost cast recently here talking about that. And Alex, if you see the difference between just Kyle Allen and Alex, Alex is more decisive, and he should be. I mean, obviously, he's the vet. He's more decisive. He goes for his reads, and gets the ball out quickly. That's important. And now with Haskins being the backup and actually being active, I think you're going to have a better opportunity to be more involved. You know how I felt about that. I don't believe being inactive on game day is good for a guy who's trying to learn. Now, if you feel like his basics and his fundamentals are bad and that's what you're doing, I guess, then that's what you're working on, then fine. But I felt like the reason why Haskins regressed was just that a lot of things weren't working for them. He's learning the offense along with the offensive line, and then you know how it is. You know, if you're learning something new and you're used to doing something a certain way, you go and regress back to old habits because that's what you know, that's what's comfortable, especially in pressure situation where you're under duress and you feel like nothing's working. So it's not, you got to break those habits, obviously. But I think Smith's starting is going to be good, but I think Haskins has an opportunity to have an opportunity to come back and be able to play because 3 turnovers for Smith isn't going to work. You can call it rust or whatever, but, dude's a veteran quarterback. There's just 3 throws that I'm just like, the one wasn't his fault. And McKissick, dude, you can't over an ant in the middle of the field every time. Like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, you need better shoes, deeper cleats. I don't know.
How do you fall? Oh, it's so frustrating.
But you can't have that happen. That's an interception that really isn't on him. But the other 2 are definitely on him. And you can't have those ill-advised throws. Think about it. If they don't make that mistake and they can put together the drives that they put together to get back in the game, they win that game. But because the Giants have tanked a lot in the fourth quarter as well.
But let's not overshadow the fact that you made that point, that we're seeing them coming back, but they're not quite able to do it. It took like year 4 under Jay for that to actually happen, for this team to see that. To see that in week 9 under the first year, that's the things that I take a step back and look at the progression of the mistakes. We see them growing. We see them trying to find a way to win. And Rivera said earlier in the week that they're still trying to find their identity. They don't know who they are. Right. And the fact that folks don't listen to what he says and try to read deeper into it, he's telling you, he's trying to figure shit out. He doesn't have a set way that he thinks this is going to work. It's a chess game right now. If I'm gonna move this pawn and see what happens, I'm gonna move this bishop and see what he's trying to see what works with this team because they're trying to figure themselves out. But for some reason, this fan base thinks that at the snap of a finger, somebody can come in and fix 25 years of dysfunction. It's just not going to happen.
The fans are just fed up. I think, just to speak on that for a second, I think that they were like, what we didn't expect to have to wait this long after the last Super Bowl win to get another win. And then, we get that it takes a while for the coaching, from the outside looking in, but from the inside, they're like, I've suffered for so long. And all the other franchises in this area, have done very well recently. The Capitals, the Mystics, the Nationals, when's our time, right? And then they're like, oh, this coach is going to be our savior. Let's get it in, especially when the division is so bad. We have an opportunity. And I feel like in some ways we fan the flames because we want the fans to come in. We want to sort of embrace that thing that we could win now. If we didn't believe in that, we'd go to Haskins and see what we got. So clearly at some point the organization is putting out the we want to win now mantra, right? But I understand that it takes time. So there's competing issues going at play, and I think the fans get tired of that.
It's okay to want to win. You don't go out trying to lose. You want to win. So I don't have a problem with them wanting to win. And I think Carol made a good point as well with the chess piece analogy. Usually those chess pieces are being played and learning about yourself is in the off season and preseason. That's usually when you're learning about yourself. Now, this is a whole new team on a lot of levels. Offensively, it's new all the way around. And then you add guys learning a new system. So I think you're starting to see, like you said, in this week 9, to see these guys begin to fight back, not close the deal, but they are fighting back in the second half when they are getting down instead of folding. I think that's seeing a lot of your head coach in this football team. I also will say, look at guys like Morgan Moses stepping up, and because they looked like they were hitting the mouth and stunned a bit, and guys are standing around looking at somebody like, I don't want to say anything. You gonna say something? And more just like, hell no, we're not going to do this today. Like, what are y'all doing? Get your heads out of your butts. Let's go. This is a game to play. We're not down yet. It's not over. And it's good to see. And that shows that what Ron Rivera is trying to do is filtering down to a lot of guys. And it's filtering down to a lot of the vets. The vets are buying in. They're orchestrating that, and they're putting that off as well. And the young guys are buying in too. You mentioned Carroll about the young man playing at corner. Carroll, I think his name is Carroll. Last name's Carroll. But he played well. He made some mistakes, but you see every week too. He's making plays. There's some missed ones, but he's making more than he's missing week after week. It's the growth, people. It's all about the growth right now, especially in this type of climate with what we're dealing with, pandemic and all the things that come with this season. It's pretty impressive what they did yesterday, despite the loss. I thought it was pretty awesome to see those guys continue to fight and have an opportunity at the end. It's just sad that they couldn't close the deal.
Right. I appreciate that outside perspective, because I think from the inside, they were just like, we had 2 opportunities at it. We failed both times. And that was sort of the conversation I had back with, Carol offline. We were like, he was like, it was a mistake. The guy slipped. It wasn't his fault. He's going to come back and redeem himself now. That's what Carol's thing was like. I, on the other hand, doom and gloom. I'm like, nope, we're going to throw our fifth turnover of the day, interception, seal the deal right now. Next play, sure enough, I hate being right. It was exactly, what I mean? Like, and but like, I've seen the story before. It's not the first time, right? Like,
I broke down on that play. That the announcer broke it down perfectly. It wasn't Vilma. If you saw my post, I couldn't stand his commentary yesterday, but the announcer broke it perfectly. And Josh Kirby, shout out, I know you check it out. He sent me a screenshot. There were 2 other players open on that play, but because McLaurin is their favorite target, he got baited in, and the safety waited for him to lock in on him. And with him being a veteran quarterback, you don't expect that. But as we said, this is the first real, second game action he's got in almost 2 years. So I'm not saying he wasn't at his best, not saying he's making excuses for him, but he made a mistake, and it was at the wrong time. And yeah, I was blown that it happened. But like I say, 5 turnovers is still 3 points away from tying the game or a touchdown away from winning the game, especially after the 2-point conversion when they, lost it before. Everybody was hot about that. I'm not really as blown as everybody. I mean, Robbie, everything you said, I agree. The fans are frustrated. They're mad. They tired of the same product. They tired of hearing the excuses. They tired of hearing the BS, seeing the sorry product. But you can't link all the other years of regimes to this man. I understand it's hard to give it a clean slate. I know it's hard. I couldn't do it before. But after now being in the media for over 10 years now, hey, I'm able to, take the emotion out of it and take a step back and see it. So it's not as bad as it seems, but it's not as good as we wanted. I think that's what's going on right now, and I understand it. I'm gonna go over some of the numbers real quick from the game, because it was interesting. Because if you recall the numbers from the game when they played the Giants before, if you looked at the numbers, the stats, they actually looked like the Washington football team would have won that game. This game was a little bit different. Major difference in this game was the time of possession. In that game, Washington had the ball for over 33 minutes in that game and almost came back and won it. This game, they had the ball for only 23 minutes. That goes to the turnovers and giving the ball up and giving the Giants the ball in prime field position, and they were just running the ball and running the clock out, which we saw Washington do the week before against the Cowboys. So that's what I say. There's a rhyme and reason why things happen in football. It isn't just, folks going out there lining up and, going at it. It's a strategy to it. It's a game plan. It's things that you do to set up plays and to set up your opponent, because it's like a chess game. I can't say it no clearer than that.
And be honest here, Carol. The the week before, covering this thing on a national level as well, the week before, the way the Giants played, I felt that the Giants were the better team coming in. Records out the window. They were playing a lot better. Now, granted, in the fourth quarter, they do what they always do in every one of those games, and they give up the ghost and can't sustain it. But Daniel Jones played well. It was a chess match, and there were some plays where they just simply took advantage. They found a weak spot in the defense, and he made an excellent throw. Some of them are mistakes, but it was a chess match between both teams, and I thought the Giants were the better team, and I was very surprised at how Washington came back in that second half and flipped the script. And that says a lot about the team. And like I said, it's easy to say same old Washington, and this is how they always come out of bye weeks. But I just don't feel it's not the same. Although they started sluggish, it's not the same thing as it was before. I just felt like it's a young team that just doesn't know how to come off of a bye week and get things going. And they were trying a little bit too hard, hence some of the dumb mistakes that were made early in the ball game that really set them back, gave Giants great field position, and the Giants, who were hot offensively and doing an excellent job on the offensive side and defensive side of the ball. Jones is playing well. They took advantage of that and put some points on the board, and that's really the difference, that and the turnovers.
Right. I think the Giants are better than their record, would, project. I think that all these teams have up and down weeks. It's a very weird league. I mean, if you look across the board, we all do pick them together. There's a lot of games we want to take back, right, that we just don't even see. Like, we all had Tampa Bay, everyone across the board, and they got their butts whooped, right? So, so it's a weird league. Like, this can happen to any team, any situation, even to Tom Brady. Like, it's so bizarre, because I actually thought that the Giants looked really good in both games against us, more than us looking terrible or whatever. And, Carol, you always say both teams, try to come to play too, like the Giants needed to get another win on the board. They're in a very similar situation to where the Washington football team is, where they're trying to develop their talent. I just don't understand why Daniel Jones seems to only go off against us. Like, why has 4 of his 5 wins in the league? Ken, DC's People's Champ, who's me on a little bit, he sent that to me. 4 out of his 5 wins.
For some reason, this team always has issues with young quarterbacks, and they broke that trend a little bit under Jay towards the end of his tenure. But for some reason, young quarterbacks gives this team issues. I don't know why, but he did have a above average game. Alex Smith was 24 for 32, 325 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, 78.3 quarterback rating. Daniel Jones was 23 for 34, 212 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, with a 94.2 quarterback rating. Antonio Gibson, who I definitely want to talk about, 6 carries, 20 yards, 3.3 yard average touchdown, and that fumble. Yes, that fumble that I'm going to talk about. He also added 3 catches for 35 yards. Wayne Gallman for the Giants had 14 carries, 68 yards, 4.9 yard average with a touchdown. Evan Ingram, 5 catches, 48 yards, 1 touchdown with a 9.6 yard average. And Terry McLaurin, 7 catches, 115 yards, 16.4 yard average, and 1 touchdown. And if you tuned into the Keys to Victory, the pregame show before, I was talking about secondary receivers getting into the game to helping getting Terry open and get some of that coverage off of. We saw Steven Sims was activated, but actually Cam Sims went off. He had 3 catches for 110 yards, which helped open up Terry for the late game score that he got. And it was just good to see, some of the younger guys contributing. Unfortunately, Isaiah Wright fumbled the ball on the punt return, attempted punt return, which definitely swung the momentum more in the Giants' favor. It's like they couldn't get in front of themselves. It's like they were just doing too much and causing them and shooting themselves in the foot. But the learning curve is there. We have a lot of young players and rookies that's putting in work and putting in time, and they're going to be mistakes. That's why I wasn't really upset at them. It was just that it was like an avalanche. Like the first one started and it just kept going. I was hoping that it would stop, but it just wouldn't. The turnovers just kept coming. And then also the penalties, 6 penalties That's one thing they definitely have to fix because you can't keep shooting yourself in the foot when you already have offensive issues, scoring and, trying to get points on the board. I mean, they did put up 20, which is cool, but it wasn't enough to win the game. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not really that upset about it. I wish they wouldn't have came out as flat as they did, but I'm not really upset about the outcome. Overall, at this point in the season, Dujane, what do you take away from this offense? We said that they're still searching for an identity along with the rest of the team. What do you see the potential of this offense? We've seen some good, a lot bad, but as you're overall looking at the season so far, and the Rivera, Scott Turner, and even with the carousel at quarterback, how do you think this offense is looking? And do you see potential of this offense actually, getting it together and being something, that gives teams something to be afraid about?
This season, it all depends. Like you said, Cam Sims stepping up. They need a second guy to step up consistently. It can't be sporadic like this. It has to be consistent. I know people are looking at Antonio Gibson, in the rushing department. In this game, they really they couldn't. I mean, they were behind early. They had to throw a lot. They were behind the whole game. So that kind of took away that ability. And they like using Gibson in the passing game as well. So he kind of splits those types of things, those types of carries. We know what he's capable of when they can run the ball and use that as a focal point. But I think this offense has a lot of potential. I need more consistency from Logan Thomas in the catching department. He's normally sure-handed, wasn't so sure-handed in this particular game, but definitely need that. If he can do that, and you can add a wide receiver, whoever it is, since Cam Sims had the day, then give it to him. But you need a receiver that's going to be a threat. You saw he saw Sims on a lot of crossing routes, coming across the field there, and he worked hard to get the yak. So if they can get some consistency with a number two, you know what McLaurin's going to bring for you. And between the two quarterbacks, Smith, Haskins, they have arms. Haskins has the bigger arm, but they have the arm to do it, and they just need a little bit more pieces. But I think as the season goes on, if the offensive line can hold up, I think you'll see more production out of this offense. And I think you probably will see more production out of this offense come Sunday, being that Smith will have a full week of practice and be able to get into a rhythm instead of coming in dry like that. And I think he'll do a little better. Hopefully, he doesn't turn it over like that. But I think he'll do a little bit better. And Gibson's got to, I don't know, got to do some kind of drill, Tiki Barber drills or something. But guys got to hold on to the football. Can't be turning it over and having it pop out. Like you're carrying it like a loaf of bread. You got to carry it like you're carrying one of those duck eggs or something. Like
the precious. Like.
He actually said that he, still making that transition from realizing from the wide receiver to the running back that every time that you get the ball, you're going to get hit, you're going to get touched, that you got to protect it as a wide receiver. They don't have that same discipline with keeping it high and tight because they're out there trying to make moves and make the defender miss so they can try to get loose. So I'm going to chalk it up because he's only had two. So I'm going to just chalk it up as, he's still learning, still transitioning. He had that great game against the Cowboys, 20 carries, 128 yards, and a touchdown. I mentioned in the pregame that I would hope that he would be able to build off of it. First play of the game, boom, he fumbled. I was like, damn it. Well, don't let this one turn out well. But like you say, the passing game, he's going to be key. You see them going to, excuse me, drinking some adult beverages, pardon. Then you see him going to McClissick. You see him going to him out the and Gibson out the backfield, which is going to open up the wide receivers because they're going to start bringing the linebackers down and cover the flat, which is going to give the wide receivers more opportunities. But like you said, it's a work in progress. I feel like they're going to be better and they're going to keep improving. Actually, they've started the Monday Night Football game, is actually the second quarter has just started. Patriots are 7-3 over the Jets, the winless Jets, and the Patriots are 2-5. Cam Newton.
Such a bad game. Such a bad game.
He's
I don't even have it on, but I know Carol would give updates. But I'm like, I can't even watch that. That's like
it's been a little ugly to start off. It's been nothing really pretty to look at. I mean, Cam had a nice run at the goal line, almost got in for the touchdown, where they were able to score on the next play. And the Jets are the Jets. I'm only really watching if I got Crowder going, and I'm already up by 30. I'm just,
I'm happy you're watching it because I billed that we would. I still haven't turned it on yet, but it's gonna be interesting. I'm curious real quickly to get your thoughts on this, Dujane, and then I'm gonna bring in Brian because I want to get his Giants take from the other side's perspective. But how many weeks do you want to see it until we see Haskins? Is it based on how we're in play for the division going forward? Like, when do you make that call? Is it how Smith is playing? Is it just stuff you're seeing in practice? For you, Dujane, from the outside perspective, what do you want to see with the quarterback position going forward past this? We know what's going on this week, but past that,
I want them to go with the best quarterback that gives them the best opportunity to win. Again, I understand Alex being away, the time he has been, and you guess you give him a little pass for last week on those, but some of those interceptions are just veteran. You should know. You should know you can't do that at all. And you could see it on his face. He knew that he couldn't, and he made a mistake. But I think, it's really hard to say because you want to win. If you feel like that Haskins can give you the better chance to win, then I guess you put him in if Alex isn't getting the job done, i.e. turning it over, with interceptions. But because I'll say this, I like the way the offense moved with Alex when he got in, and how it seemed that they just had a bit of better rhythm. And if you feel like Haskins can do that and then get you over the top, especially if Smith's turning the ball over by throwing interceptions, then you put him in because the objective is to win.
How many weeks do you think you give him?
Man, that's really tough. You're talking about a veteran guy. With the way that the division is, I mean, I guess you could give him 2 or 3 games. It depends on how the rest of the division goes if you're looking to win. But there's no guarantee putting Haskins in gives you any ability to win. So it really just comes down to, do you really want to give the kid a chance again if you feel like he's ready to resume the role and do a good job and do what you're asking him to do, i.e. what Alex Smith has done coming off the bench twice? If he can do that and then you reduce the turnovers, then I say you put him in as soon as you can, especially if the vet isn't getting it done. But if you're looking to win and he isn't doing much better or less than what Alex is doing, then there's no way you put him in. I mean, the objective from what we've been told is to win the division. So until the division is out of reach, you go with the best quarterback that gives you the best chance to win. And right now they feel like it's Alex, and I don't blame them for that because I feel like it is right now too. Just the way the offense moved when he was in. So give him an opportunity. And then if it's out of reach, for sure, I think you throw Haskins in. I mean, there's no reason to keep.
Right. It's just funny because Alex is the one of the 3 coaches that doesn't have a win, right? So the other 2 each have 1 win. So like it's this sort of interesting thing where you're trying to win now, but you're also trying to preserve the future. I think I keep Alex in at least for the next 2, maybe 3 games. So like for me, it's this definitely the Lions game, and you get the Cincinnati game, right? And then it's Thanksgiving. I think you probably give him Thanksgiving too. I think the pressure of from the fan base would just turn on Haskins if he doesn't produce under this. But Alex Smith, if the fan base turns on him, he just retires with 20 extra million in his pocket. He's not going to be as upset, and it doesn't necessarily damage the psyche of a young quarterback further, right? So so that's my thinking of it, but I just didn't know if that makes sense from an outsider's perspective.
No, it does. I mean, it's a tough situation. You know how I feel about the whole win now thing, but if that's what your objective is and you want to win, and he said he wants to try to win the division, then I think you go with the the guy who gives you the best opportunity to win. And right now, that is Alex Smith. Just by seeing and evaluating, looking at how he orchestrated the offense and just made quick decisions. And that's going to put you. He put them in an opportunity to win the ball game yesterday. He didn't orchestrate that game-winning drive. He cost them the game. Now, if he cost you the game for the next couple of weeks, then you have to put in put Haskins back in. But like I said, Rivera's the one evaluating these guys, and if he isn't up to at least what fans are seeing from Alex, there's no reason to put him in, especially if the division, which he said he wants to try to win, is still within reach. Is my thing. Now, if Alex is hindering you, and you feel like the young man can add that what is missing, then you put him in.
I mean, in my opinion, I don't. The reason why I see the logic in it, because the one thing that really hasn't been talked about is he was the backup, but the backup doesn't get many snaps, if any snaps, with the first team. And
Right.
then if you're the young quarterback, Allen was probably getting all the stats. So you're bringing in a cold quarterback that hasn't played, and he did what he did. So imagine you give him a week of preparation with the first team. Let's see what he can really do if he has a week to prepare. So that's the logic that I see behind it. Had a question, a couple of comments on the feed. But what's up, Tony? Appreciate you checking out. He was like, has Alex started a game for us? No, he hasn't started a game for us this season yet. This will be his first start this season. So that's why I think that they're going to, see what he can do, because you have to admit, even though most folks didn't agree with it, Allen's third game against the Cowboys, and the second game actually was decent until he had the fumble against the Giants. The offense was looking more NFL-like than like it did before. It was getting beaten by some of the local high school teams. But you saw the progress under Allen because, like you mentioned, he knew to hit his checkdowns. He knew where to go with the ball. But with Smith, it's not that thought process. It's a reaction. Allen still has to think some of it. That's why I was saying with Haskins, he's still thinking because he's still learning the offense and he still has issues with his own personal mechanics and stuff. So that's why he's making the mistakes, because it's not a read and react for him. It's a read, think, then react. So with Alex Smith actually getting first team reps and get some chemistry with the offensive weapons, they talked about on the Terry McLaurin touchdown. He threw his man open. We talked about that with Haskins, that he doesn't have the confidence to throw his man open. If his man isn't open, he's not going to throw the ball, or he's going to force it, and it's going to be a turnover because it's going to sail because he didn't set his feet right or he didn't do his mechanics right. When you have a quarterback that recognizes that and can do that, that changes the whole complexion of your offense, because we saw it again when Arizona played. The Kyler Murray was throwing his receivers open. They were in tight windows, but he had the confidence in them to do that. I don't think that Haskins had the confidence in the receivers, in his knowledge of the playbook, or in his decision making to make those passes yet. That's going to come, but until he addresses the other issues with the footwork, the technique, throwing motion, mechanics, all of that stuff, that's null and void until he fixes those things.
Well, devil's advocate, Carol. Now you said it was concerned that he was concerned about not throwing guys open, and guys are a little especially with Kyler Murray, he's more comfortable with throwing, not worrying about the turnover. You think that Haskins worrying about the turnover and then committing those turnovers, you already know you're under a new coach. There ain't much of that they're going to put up with. They'll go to the next guy, especially a guy in Kyle Allen who at least knows the offense, right? So do you think that had a little bit? He's young man, wants to start for this team, wants to do it for the hometown, but you start thinking about and looking behind you a little bit, and you don't necessarily want to make that throw because you're too busy afraid of making the mistake, but you still make the mistake anyway.
That's a valid point. That's a valid point. I never thought about it in that aspect. So that's definitely a valid point. But I just think I think that's the next step in this progression. Just having the confidence that that if you make that throw, it's going to be big for your team. If you miss it, cool. If you get that turnover, cool. It's those unnecessary turnovers that cause everybody problems when constantly sails over the receiver head and the free safety is sitting there like, ooh, look what I got. it's those are the ones that's frustrating for you. But I still have faith that he can make the adjustment. I'm just like I said, I'm just hoping that he put the work in while he's been inactive and been on the sideline because it's going to show on the field. If he continues to make the same mistakes, we're going to know that he wasn't putting in the work, and that's going to go back to that immaturity thing that everyone has been saying about him. And then when you get to that point, that I'm not saying it's true, but you're going to get more people starting to listen to it when you had an opportunity because nobody said he was done. Nobody said they was going to trade him and get him out of town because he's no good. Rivera told him point blank. He said, he set him down and said, this can either make you or break you. This is going to make you a better quarterback or it's not. The ball is in your court. So that's ultimately what it comes down to. But yeah, I definitely see your point, being throwing conservative when you got somebody behind you already in the new offense, already worried about, getting yanked, not being established. So I definitely see your point on that.
Yeah.
Say, let's go ahead and bring in Brian so he can enjoy his second victory of the season. Unfortunately, on the Washington football team, it's amazing how stuff like this happens. But we lost to the 0-16 Lions before, 13 Lions before. So this team finds a way to keep things interesting. Brian, surprised you don't have a Giants flag behind you. What's going on, man?
No, I went for the other one that got the victory this weekend. I went for the American flag.
I feel that. So how does it feel being a New York Giants fan on undefeated on the watch, sweeping us, and securing your second victory of the season?
I mean, I guess I every time the Giants beat Washington, I just kind of have the same feeling like nobody really wins, honestly. Like both of these teams, everybody's a loser. Like everybody's a loser when it comes to this matchup. So I mean, I guess I'm happy that the Giants, because this is all that's keeping the Giants from being a completely winless football team is the fact that they've beaten Washington twice. So I guess I'm happy that they've beaten Washington twice, but still, I don't know. I'm hating the NFC East the way it is this year. The fact that it's just so bad. Every team is just awful. Like it's just hard to watch. And I give credit to Washington. You guys did almost come back in the game, and I'm hoping that Kyle Allen's okay. That injury was awful. And I feel awful for Alex Smith having gone through a terrible injury similar to that to go immediately into the game. I feel for him, but yeah, and so my thoughts are with Kyle Allen, but I give credit to Washington. You guys did almost come back in that game. Somebody had to win, and it was the Giants. So I guess credit to them.
Yeah.
No doubt. It was like I said, I've never seen a game like that on the Washington football team. Just from anybody that have all those turnovers, it was just crazy. But dude, I wanted to talk to you about the defense. We got so wrapped up with the quarterback situation. The run defense, we talked about it, the week before, 2 weeks before, about them not being disciplined, not staying, gap true, not, trying to do too much. We saw in the Cowboys game once they got the lead and the Cowboys abandoned the run. And, when they did try, they were still being fundamentally sound, doing what they were supposed to do. But the Giants had, 166 yards rushing. The Washington football team had 37. So we know the game plan changed. Running game got thrown out when it got so far behind, 20-3. But this run game that we're giving up, I mean, Jones, he does move the ball. He does run the ball. So they do a lot of the zone read and holding the ball, making it think that he's going to run. But what do you think is missing? I spoke about Jeff Leonidas before. I feel like that he plays a part in that because he's takes up space and clogs those holes. But I actually saw that Rivera said that the linebackers have to do better. Do you think it's more of the linebackers not doing their job, the front seven as a whole, or what have you observed with this run defense and this defense of this Washington football team that's number 1 in pass defense, but number 18 in rush defense?
Matt Ioannidis is missed for sure. But with that said, what I'm seeing is a lot of guys, you got linebackers, when they come down and fill the hole, it's like my man look like it looks like they're on slip and slides a lot of times. It doesn't matter who it is. It seems like they come in too hot, then they get out of position and the back just kind of does a little shimmy shake, okey doke, and they go sliding right on by, or it's a bad tackle. You got guys like the coming down, safeties coming down to make tackles as well. They come in hot, they don't make a solid tackle, or they come in hot and are out of position and blow right by where they're supposed to be. A little okey doke, and they get worked. I think Landon is missed in that department. That's one thing he did really well, filling the gaps, coming down. Just need more consistency. You're right. Linebackers have to do better. They're doing an excellent job getting downhill, making plays in the backfield as far as opposing teams' quarterbacks and trying to be disruptive back there. But it seems like when they start dealing with runs that kind of just go out just outside the tackle position, left or right, one guy seals a block, and the next thing you know, what could have been bottled up, corner comes down, misses that, they shoot the gap, and the next thing you know, it's a 7-8 yard run plus. Those guys got to do better. Secondary and the linebackers definitely have to do better. And I think if they can shore that up, be more sure on the tackles, don't be so reckless coming down, pursuing, they'll do a lot better and things will change. Until then, it's going to be much of the same. And it's not an excuse, but there's a lot of young guys in that secondary too. So they're trying to make plays, and sometimes trying to make plays and trying to make the right play and be, have the opportunity to kind of pump their chest a little bit. They get a little overexcited and miss. And those misses have been big. Hence the 100+ yards rushing for the Giants.
Right. It's really interesting to me because it's like you see the team be very successful at times, both on the offensive and defensive side, and then it also widely unsuccessful, right? So it's just you see these glimpses and you get this hope, and then it gets taken away from you in these other moments, and it's just hard. But I see the progression. I really do. And I've even mentioned it on other shows and comments that I see progression. I kind of get shot down that there really isn't, that it isn't there. But I think it is. It's just hard because fans of the team and people that cover just the team, and we try to cover sports in the DC ecosystem, so we're trying to cover more than just Washington football team, right? So we take some of that with us. But shows that are really predominantly about the football team really don't see the progression. They see it as more of the same. But it's tough because I definitely saw moments of, because, the Giants really wanted to win that game too. They needed to prove it for their own fan base and their own situation that they're trying to do. And I don't take it as but it's hard because they just beat the hell out of Dallas. And then you had a bye week. And then you're like, your momentum. And I guess I'm the most pissed because I've bet against my team every game this season, right? In our pick'em. And the one time I go with them, because I'm like, you know what? I think we can finally do it. And I'd be so mad when everyone gets a point on me in the column because I'm like, this is definitely going to be a win, right? They had all the momentum going into it. And it's a short week for, New York had to play on Monday, right? We watched the game together and it didn't even look that great. And I'm like, they're not going to have that much time. We had all this extra prep. They're going to want to prove themselves. We talked about how they're going to be working out in the gym. And I think you're right. I think they got too amped for it. They got too excited about it. And they made some mistakes. And those 5 mistakes cost them the game ultimately. And, it's just frustrating, I guess, is ultimately. I can understand why the fan base – and they're trying to go all after different people, right? No one can target one thing because I don't think there's any one thing that's not right with the team. It's just there's a whole hodgepodge of different things that are going wrong.
No doubt. But I know Dujanay probably got to get him out of here.
Yeah, I feel bad. We've gotten you for over an hour, but we appreciate it.
I know we got to get him out of here. We can get Brian talking some more of the New York Giants better to get DC People's Champ on. But Dujanay, let the folks know what you're working on and what you got coming up soon, so you can let you get and go doing the multi-talented things you're probably doing behind the scenes already.
Not too much written work here. Got a lot of housework going on here with what I got going on. So we will have a show this week though, and we'll have the podcast out. Hopefully it'll no later than Friday or the weekend. So we're definitely going to put out a podcast. I encourage people to go over to Ghostcast if you're a Apple user. Ghostcast, I'm over there at NotBlame21. I do a little shows, little things on the Washington football team. It is under the old name. If you go over there and look at their little news blocks, it is under the old name, so it is under that. And I also do Saints as well on the Ghostcast. So that's pretty much what we've got going on. It's easier for me right now, especially being that I'm kind of locked with all the work I have going on, unable to write. So I'm just talking about it. So I appreciate you guys having me on, though, and it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, we love it. And I wanted to tell you behind the scenes, I'm working on some new technology. I'm going to make a new section of our website, and I'm going to put all the different podcasts, so we can put a link to that up. We'll put a one for a bunch of the different contributors that have been a part of the show. So, but for now, if people wanted to get the breakdown, they can definitely check out the Déjeuner button on SportsOTHP.com. And the podcast is on that link as well. But I look forward to that podcast, and thank you for giving all this time to us.
Yeah, no problem, man. It's always fun. It was a great show.
All right, man. Appreciate it, man. I'll holler at you later on, bro.
Later, guys.
All right.
Awesome.
So, Brian, yeah, you can go ahead and bring in DC's People Champ. Brian, let's talk about the state of your Giants. You know, most of the Giants fans that I talk to, you know, they've been clowning and cracking jokes because they got their 2 victories against us. But how do you feel about this team and your young quarterback that's, you know, trying to still find his way in the NFL?
I don't really know how to feel about Daniel Jones so far because, you know, he only has 5 wins in the NFL, and 4 of them are against Washington. So I don't really know. Like,
you don't
I
have
feel
to
like
keep saying that.
Yeah, I don't really know how to, like, I don't really know if I can, like, have expectations because of that. Like, I just don't really know how to feel. I love Joe Judge. Joe Judge, I think, is a great head coach. I think he will be a really good head coach in the NFL. And like, I think he can build something special with the Giants as head coach. He comes from the Belichick tree. He comes from New England. I mean, he was an assistant on Super Bowl winning teams. I really like Joe Judge as the head coach of the Giants. I was surprised. I actually didn't know that they rushed for over 100 yards yesterday until Déjeuner mentioned it. That's kind of surprising without Saquon Barkley. So I'm a little surprised by that from yesterday's game. But, yeah, you know, I am happy I got the win.
We saw an Alfred Morris sighting. So, like,
yeah, Alfred Morris. Yeah, we got Alfred Morris, too. How about that?
Yeah, so that was – I thought he was going to – I got scared. One move he made, he just, like, bodied somebody. And I was like, oh, crap, the old Alfred Morris is going to come out, and he's just going to run all over us. Like, I had these horrible visions. And then they were able to actually contain him for the most part after that. But after seeing that him truck over the guy, I was like, oh God, like, why do we get rid of him? Is this going to be a mistake? Like, I just saw like the ghost of Alfred Morris, but yeah, it was kind of crazy. I had forgotten that he had gone to you guys. So.
Yeah, it was just a blast from the past name. He's only been there for a few games, but it's been kind of a rotational running back type thing since Saquon went down for the Giants. But yeah, just to answer your question, Carol, I mean, I don't really know what to expect. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs or anything this year, even though the NFC East is terrible. So as long as they win a couple more games, I'm okay with it, and just build towards the future, I guess.
Do you want to win more games? I mean, I don't know. Like,
not really, honestly. I kind of honestly do want to. I do kind of want a higher draft pick. So I don't really know. I don't know. I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose every game, but like, you know, I would prefer to get a higher draft pick.
Yeah, it's this complicated thing in the NFC East where you like a couple of games gets you the division, but you probably don't do anything with it, and then you just get an even worse draft pick. So
right.
It's just like, but you want to see progression with your team. So I understand, like, you want to see if Daniel Jones is really the guy, and you know, I think Déjeuner said it, you know, earlier, and you know, Champ, you said it last week. You know, you play to win the game, and so like it's an important thing to keep on trying to win, but it's just hard because it's like you're worshiping yourself off for the future, and like what is really gaining right now, and you know, it's just as a fan, it's like, what's the point? But you still, you know, you want to have something positive to root for. I mean, why else would we tune in every Sunday and go through? My wife was watching me go through the agony of a Washington football team game this week, and she's like, "Why do you put yourself through this?" I'm like, "I don't know." Like, it's just like some of those moments are like really brutal because it's like I was convinced for big portions of the game that we were going to lose, and like Hurt was talking me off of the ledge on one of his Facebook posts. Like I was posting, and he's like, "Watch, we're going to score hard right at the beginning of the third quarter, and we're going to come back and we're going to take the lead by the fourth quarter." And he said that. And like all of the check marks and all the things he was saying were coming true, and yet they still found a way to lose. And I'm like, oh, like so it's like thanks for giving me the hope that like was then dashed, So
That's how you live and die with the game, man. It's different things happen, and I was saying the same thing, on my page. I was talking to a couple of the fans that was hitting me up, and I was like I said, we was one score down. Okay, we're two scores down. You're still in the game. It's not over. It's plenty of time left. And then, they came out and, scored a touchdown with the McLaurin. And then, the momentum started to swing and change. So that's just football. But DC People's Champ, what is your take and from your perspective and some of the stuff that you've been privy to online? Because I haven't paid a lot of attention. I've scrolled through, excuse me, but I know you probably been checking out some things. What's going on tonight, bro?
Well, I mean, what can you say? I had one guy on social media said just to start Dwayne Haskins the rest of the year, and I just had to scroll past it because I'm like, he's the same idiot that says the same stupid shit that he always says. So I just left it be what it is. This loss is tough because even with 5 turnovers, you were still one score from either tying or winning this ball game. And you take away even one of those turnovers, I think this team wins this ball game. The Giants, they weren't lighting the world on fire, but the Washington football team were basically shooting themselves in the foot. By the way, I had to wear this shirt. This is the old school Stone Cold shirt because I was saying this a lot on that fumble that Logan Thomas couldn't pick up, and he's a man that has supposed to have short hands. I kept saying this. What? But that sequence with that fumble was a microcosm of not only just the team itself, but the whole division as a whole.
I was gonna say whole NFC East.
It really is, and it's crazy. Also, not to be jumping all over the place, but this is just where my brain is. The fact that Daniel Jones, 4 of his 5 victories are against the Washington football team out of 22 starts. The only other victory that he has as a starter is against the very team we played this week, the Detroit Lions.
I'm sorry, champ. That's not true. His only other win was against the Bucks.
Really?
Yeah, his first start against Tampa Bay.
Okay, Wikipedia failed me then. Damn it. Wikipedia failed me because
at least we have a Giants fan here.
Yeah, at least I'm here. Correct.
Thank you. Appreciate that. But no, I mean, but from a fan's perspective, again, I understand what is going on here. I understand that this is a young team. This is a team that is developing itself. Y'all said it earlier. They don't know who they are. They don't have their identity yet. So you can't expect in this climate that they're going to suddenly find out we're this or we're that. You're not going to get that. And I go back to Robbie's point. Frustration, yes. I was alive. I was 8 years old the last time this team won the Super Bowl. I'm 38 now. So trust and believe me, I have been through the ringer and then some. But as frustrated as I may feel, I'm also patient and understanding that, listen, this is going to take some time before we end up being one of in the upper echelon of teams and things of that nature. But this game right here was very disappointing just because of the fact of a slow start, having to come back, having to bring things back to even get it to a point where they had a chance to win. But too many mistakes, and they're here. Here we are. Now we're talking about another loss. Yet we're still in second place in the division. The division's still right there. It's still there.
Yeah, it's the division is just bad. I mean, whoever wins it, is going to be possibly an under 500 record. be crazy.
They might win it with 6 wins, Carol. Carol, 6 wins may win this division.
Remember, several years ago, the Seattle Seahawks made the playoffs, won their division at 7-9.
Yeah,
Let's not forget that.
Yep.
That wouldn't be too bad. I mean, 6-10, 7-9. I mean, at that time, that division was as bad as the NFC East is. So it's just a crazy situation right now. But I mean, I meant to ask Dujanay about this because I saw good old JP from NBC Sports posted took a spin lesson on something that Rivera said, or a question that he asked Rivera, asking him, does he think that this team has a franchise quarterback? And Rivera didn't answer the question, which to me makes sense because he still doesn't know. But JP is trying to save face from that last week and making that, Ryan Kerrigan thing go viral, even though it wasn't true. And he started getting like Ian Rappaport putting out false news to get clickbait. But it's funny how they try to spin it when he said he's still trying to find out, why are you trying to force the issue and make him to make it? He's not Jay Gruden. He's not going to fold to the so-called pressure of the fake media. He's going to be real about it. Like he doesn't know. He has to still see what the woman does when he gets back in there. So I mean, I guess I ask, because we haven't really talked about it because y'all know how I feel about it. But Cham, how do you feel about the quarterback situation? Do you feel like if Haskins addresses the issues that he has, that he can be the franchise quarterback, or do you think the team still has to find the franchise quarterback?
I think he is the franchise quarterback if he fixes the issues that he has. I really feel that way. Now, granted, and Carol, you said this so many times, even last year, that the kid only had 1 full season as a starter in college. Now, granted, he lit the world on fire in a very competitive Big Ten conference, which is one of the most competitive conferences in college football. But you can't expect someone who only had 1 year of starter experience coming to the NFL, where it's a lot faster, it's a lot more complex, and expect him to come in and just light the world on fire right away, especially when at the time he had a coaching staff that was nowhere near equipped to build him up and to make him into a professional starting quarterback. So, but I honestly believe that Dwayne Haskins is the franchise quarterback for this team. And it's definitely needed because this fan base, we haven't had a franchise quarterback, in my opinion. We haven't had a franchise quarterback since Mark Rippon, to be honest with you. And I mean, even RG3, you can't even call him a franchise quarterback. He had 1 good year, his rookie year, and then it was, it fell flat on his face for the most part. But I honestly think that Haskins, if he works out all his mechanical issues and the whole staring down receivers and actually takes in advice from veterans, especially on a defense, I think he can be this team's franchise quarterback moving forward and finally bring this team back to prominence that they had in the 80s and the early 90s and things of that nature. So yes, I do believe that Haskins is the franchise quarterback for this team.
Real quickly though, because I want to do a follow-up, because I asked Dujanay this question, where I sort of went through a timeline, right, of I think you give him the next 3 games, in Smith, and then we see what we got with Haskins at the end. Unless the division is in reach, if we win the 3 games, then maybe we keep in Alex Smith. But what are you looking for going forward in this season? What sort of things do you think the coach needs to see? And what should they do with this quarterback position?
All right. I'm a big believer in roll with the hot hand. And so if Smith turns around and he wins the next 3 games against Detroit, against Cincinnati, and then the Thanksgiving game against Dallas, you got to stick with him. You cannot go and switch him out with Haskins to see what you have in Haskins. You have to stick with him. Now, if Smith struggles in these 3 games and has another multiple turnover game like he had against the Giants, then you have to think about, okay, let's see what we have in Haskins. Let's see if he's fixed what he needed to fix, and let's go from there. But again, I got to go with the hot hand. And if Alex Smith reels off 3 in a row, then there's no way in hell that you take him out of the game.
So what about 2-1 or 1-2? Like, what about the other? I mean, 3-0, I think it's a pretty obvious one, right? Like,
if he goes 2-1, I still stick with him. 1-2, it just depends on his performances in those 3 games. If he goes 1-2, if he goes 1-2 and still plays mistake-free football, I think you still stick with him because he's clearly showing that he can keep from making mistakes and things of that nature. So I wouldn't take him out. I just wouldn't.
Yeah,
if
it's
he
tough
goes 1-2 with no mistakes.
Right, yeah, because, Carol, I'll ask you the same sort of question, right? Because it's tough. This is the easier 3 games. Then it's going to go into a really hard stretch before the Philly game at the end, right? Because we'll have to play Seattle. We'll have to, play teams like Pittsburgh. Those are going to be tough. Even the 49ers, I think maybe we could win that one, but, like, it's difficult. So what do you see that you need to see over the next 3 games?
With the Alex situation, I don't think that we're going to. It's kind of hard to say. That's an interesting point with the way the schedule works out, with the next 3 games being subpar competition, and the 3 games after that being tougher competition. It could be a test, to see how he does, and then put Haskins in there against a tougher competition to see if he rises to the top with the time that he's had to work on his craft, or you might bring him in. Not this game, but the next game, depending on what Alex do. It's depending on what the coach wants to do. If Alex, lights it up, 2-1 and playing good ball, the offense is looking good. I say the same thing I said with Kyle Allen. If he's playing well, keep him in there, and until it's mathematically, determined that there's no way to win the division or whatever. And after that, I say put Haskins in and see what you got. If it's against the top teams in the league, then so be it. He's going to have to play him. He's going to be the quarterback for this team going forward. So, you got to get your experience somewhere. And I feel like, if he gets in those games and, take some lumps, but we don't see the same mistakes, and it's still a win because he's learning, in the victory column, it's in him becoming an NFL caliber quarterback going forward. That's what the ultimate goal is, and that's what we need from him to be the franchise quarterback.
So I'll ask Brian next because it's an outsider's perspective. Obviously we all root for him. I mean, Carol's a little less biased than Champ and I am. But what are your thoughts on what do you think from an outsider that Washington football team should do going forward?
I mean, I guess you should stick with Smith for now and keep Haskins as the backup. But I would like to see Haskins at some point this season. You did draft him in the first round, and I understand there's been a lot of controversy pretty much since they drafted him. So a lot of it I don't understand, but from an outsider's perspective. But I would like to see Haskins get a chance. I do like Alex Smith too. I like seeing Alex Smith, have this comeback story, even though, he wasn't amazing yesterday by any means. He did turn the ball over quite a bit. I do want to see Alex Smith going forward, but if it gets to a stretch, like if they were to go 1-2 in this easy stretch, like, I won't say easy, but easier stretch of games that they've got coming up. If they were to go 1-2, that's when I would consider making the move over to Haskins. But I don't know. I think they will win a couple games coming up. Like you said, their matchups look like they're going to be favorable towards them.
Not easy, but less difficult.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You know what I mean.
There's no easy games in the NFL. I mean, a lot of us all do pick them together, and it's just almost impossible week to week to predict them correctly. I mean, I've been listening to Brian, to your podcast, and I mean, a lot of what you say on the shows when you try to predict a game makes total sense, and then we don't necessarily.
Then I'm wrong.
Yeah, sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong, right? I mean, that's the fun about making predictions,
Yeah.
Number one guy you pick them, it is kind of.
All right.
I have to get
these games. I'm working on a 10 victory week here as long as the Patriots handle their business. Unfortunately, they're down to the Jets right now, 13-7, with less than a minute left in the second quarter. Fourth down, look like they're about to punt because Cam isn't looking too sharp. Jets defense is playing, pretty good, and Cam just doesn't look comfortable out there right now. They're running.
Cam.
hope he gets it together. Hate to see him, not be starting and be sitting on the bench behind somebody else when he has the potential to, do what he needs to do. But
But real quickly, before we go off of that topic, I do want to give you credit, Carol. You're in the top 98.9% of the entire ESPN. So like I've seen such a meteoric rise of your picks, from the last couple of years. You just got to pick the last week of the season so you don't let it all go to waste again.
Don't make that mistake.
So, but I'm right there for the fall, right? So both Arun and I are both at 86. And I got to give Dujournay a lot of credit. He's right there at 83 with Sith, and Hurt is at 82, and People's Champ is at 74.
I'm in the top 10, baby. I'm in the top 10.
You are in the top 10. So but it's been fun. I enjoy making some of those picks every week with you guys, and it makes it interesting to watch some of the other ones. But yeah, anyway, it's going to be an interesting rest of the season for sure. I wanted to quickly get Brian, and I want to get Ken's take on a couple of things I brought up at the very beginning of the show. They're pop cultural things, and then we'll end it with whatever Carol wants to end it with. But Brian, I know that Alex Trebek and Sean Connery. We had the passing of both of them. We did have the election this week, which it's just been some crazy last 2 weeks. I wanted to get I know we're DC Sports without the politics, but for just a second, I did want to get your take on the world as it is and your thoughts on this past 2 weeks.
Well, first off, rest in peace to both Sean Connery and Alex Trebek. More specifically, my family's been a huge fan of the James Bond franchise for a long time. And also Jeopardy. We watched Jeopardy for a really long time together as a family. I know my grandparents watched it together for a long time. So Alex Trebek is obviously, we're really sad about both of them. Just terrible losses. As far as the election goes, I personally, I'm very happy with the results of the election. I said that on my podcast today. I did an episode, and I talked about kind of my experience going out into DC on Saturday. I got on the metro as soon as Biden won. I pretty much got on the metro and went right into DC, and it was great. I went right down to Black Lives Matter Plaza, and people were honking and celebrating throughout the whole city, and it was a beautiful thing to see. I've never seen DC, even including the Capitals and the Nationals. I've never seen DC like that. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was kind of like a victory parade.
It felt like they won another championship. So it was just awesome. There's a lot of work to be done moving forward with the country and everything, but that was definitely a feel-good moment in a year that's been very, very difficult. So I'm happy we had that moment. And like I said, very happy with the results of the election.
Yeah, and I want to say that there are some reports that a vaccine by Pfizer and a couple of other different competing ones, even in Europe, have been announced today. We'll see how those do. But I know we're not a news show, but it is an important thing for some of our listeners to know that these things are happening, and hopefully we're making some progress. People's Champ, what are some of your thoughts on the last week?
Well, first off, with Alex Trebek, I definitely grew up watching Jeopardy. And so having his loss come, especially after he had been saying that he'd been doing so well with his treatment, it's a heavy loss, very heavy loss. And then I come to find out from a close friend of mine that the very final episode of Jeopardy that's going to have Alex Trebek on it is going to be on Christmas Day this year. So that is going to be a gut punch to what has been a very crappy 2020. As for the election, I'm very proud of what has happened. I believe this was the 4th or 5th time I voted in a general presidential election as an adult, and the first time I voted in Virginia. And to see the candidate that is most worthy to be in that office win is very satisfying. And I'm not going to sit on my laurels. I'm not going to rest on the laurels of him winning. Now it's time to show and prove. Now it's time to go out there, You sit in the big house, and now it's time to go out there and do what you say you're going to do, and that's reunite this nation and do what you're going to do. Get this pandemic under control, because again, there's a pandemic still out here. That's why I'm a hermit in my house. I don't go anywhere because of this pandemic. I can't afford or risk catching it, because if I do, then my son will grow up without a father, most likely. But very happy with what happened. Very not surprised at the reaction of the defeated party, and not surprised at the amount of individuals who are on social media confidently sitting and saying and believing all of the lies and rhetoric that's being spoken about by this very party. So, but all in all, it was a very roller coaster week when it comes to pop culture, with Alex Trebek's passing, of course, Sean Connery as well, a week prior to that, and then the results of the election.
Yeah, it's been some great time. Carol, I want to get your take on some of the world issues. I know we'll suspend our sports without the politics for just a few moments.
Yeah, Sean Connery, Alex Trebek definitely, played a huge role in most of our lives. Sean Connery was a great actor. Alex Trebek, Jeopardy for all the years, movie appearances, and some of the funny stuff. So yeah, it's 2020 has definitely sucked, and good people that we've lost. And with the election, if you turned it at the bar radio last night, I'm happy about the results. Y'all, I've steered clear of politics lately ever since my last Facebook jail bid. I'm trying to stay out. I'm rehabilitated, so I've been, leaving the politics alone. But I mean, as I said yesterday, it's cool. Biden won. Folks are happy. But this is like when Obama got elected. Everybody was happy. Everybody was good. But what's the plan? What's the plan now? We had all these protests and all this other stuff going on. But I've always said, okay, what's the what's all this leading up to? What is actually going to lead to the change to make us better humans and Americans in this country towards each other? We have to have a plan. And I just feel like there's no plan. Everybody's in utopia now. Because, the dude's going to be taken out of office, probably going to have to be forcefully taken out of office because it doesn't like he's going to go peacefully. But I mean, there's still issues with this country, and he wasn't the problem. He wasn't, a dude that said some foul stuff, did some foul stuff, but this country has always been this way. The only thing is that he had no cut cards. He didn't censor it. He didn't play politics. He said some of the true feelings of the most of the 70 million people that voted for him. So until we can address that issue and get to figure out why these folks feel that way and how if it's possible to make them change, to make that change happen, and then what are we going to do to hold our politicians accountable? These long-term politicians, these lobbyists, these all the stuff that's going on behind the so-called closed doors that we know about, but we don't think we can do anything about. We the people have to come together and find a way to help make this change happen, so we're not getting screwed over by the government. They gave us $1,200 a stimulus check to survive for almost a year. Think about that. But they have second homes, their grandkids are taken care of. But we out here, fighting for scraps, trying to get the pandemic money, trying to get stimulus money. It's a sad state for this country that's supposed to be the greatest place in the world, which I still, never mind. I'm not going to finish that statement. Yeah, that's pretty. I forgot what show I was on.
No, it's good. I think it's important. I know, we're trying to avoid the politics talk on here, and we have for a very, very long time. 5 years, over 200 shows now, and way more shows. I mean, Carol Heck does, has done over 400 shows in total. If we tally all the other things that we've been a part of over the last 5 years, but it's important that people understand how important that these times are and how rhetoric matters and the way that people speak matters and, referencing sources matters. And it's, it's important that we still talk about these issues, even if this podcast might not be the place, but there are plenty of other forums that we're all a part of that I hope that you join us and we can continue to try to make America great again. I understand that he's kind of stolen that term. And he's kind of coined it as like it's MAGA is the thing, but we do, and we need to do that. But the way that he was going about it wasn't right. and he was bringing all the races to the table. We've got to bring, the love and the joy and the brotherhood and the, supporting the neighbor and, trying to bring all of us together and find a common way, because we all agree on probably more than we disagree. But how do we find that common ground? And how do we not become a slave to party over our friendship and our people? But how do people get out of their own echo chambers? And I think it's important that we have some of these big conversations at least going forward. But I'll leave it there. But I appreciate all of you guys for joining in and talking about it. I'm going to let each one of our guests get a final say, and then we'll let them go. I'm going to start off with Brian. I've been loving your podcast. I've been going back and listening through the archives, and it's been great.
Appreciate it.
There's been some really good ones with a bunch of guests that have been on this show, including Tim and Mike and Arun, and so people should go back. Matt Cardoni was great as well, former student of mine. So lots of great stuff. I know that you released an episode today. I haven't fully caught up, but I'm sure that it's fantastic. And I encourage people to look out for Upon Further Review with Brian Brennan.
Waiting for my invite, Brian.
It's coming. Don't worry. We'll get you on, champ. Don't worry. It's coming.
All right. That sounds good. But Brian, any final thoughts that you have? Let people know where they can find the podcast. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at bbrian1991, Facebook. You can find me Brian Brennan, or my podcast page, Upon Further Review with Brian Brennan. You can find the podcast Upon Further Review with Brian Brennan on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, pretty much everywhere podcasts are available at this point. And stay tuned for more content. We got a lot more coming up. Thank you for having me on tonight, Robbie. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Sounds good. Thank you, Brian.
All right, Brian. Take it easy, Mike.
All right. People's Champ. Let people know what's happening quickly in the world of wrestling and what you'll be talking about on the New Spots podcast.
Listen. One thing is Alex Trebek we're going to give a tribute to Alex Trebek on the next podcast, because he did have an appearance in WWE in the last decade. So we are going to have a tribute for him on there. New Japan is getting ready to start their next tour, which is going to be the World Tag League Tournament as well as the Best of Super Juniors 27 tournament. So there will be another podcast that's going to be taking place coming up, where we're going to preview that tour and talk about all the matchups and all of the entrants for those two tournaments, as well as AEW put on a absolutely spectacular pay-per-view on Saturday. And myself and Sith are going to talk about that on the podcast as well. So we got a lot coming for you guys coming up this coming week. The visuals for episode 87 will go up on Wednesday at 10 a.m. on our YouTube channel. So make sure you're subscribed to that as well.
Sounds good. Yeah, it's great. People can join the StreamYard. They can ask you guys questions while you're filming it on the page, or you can go back, listen to the audio, and then have it also released on YouTube. So lots of different ways the No Spots podcast has been growing. It's great. I love what you and Sith are doing over there. And we appreciate your time as always. And we look forward to talking to you next week.
I definitely appreciate you guys having me on for this. And big shout out to Carol. Clearly, being a reformed street ninja, that car salesman thing is suited you perfectly.
Hey, man, you know, sometimes you got to talk fast and make things look appealing to people that they might not necessarily think are appealing. So, some of my past attributes are helping me excel in my new career. I appreciate you, bro.
Nah, real talk though, man. I'm proud of you, bro, man. You out here doing it, man. And Robbie, you have been doing such a great job with all of the visuals and the clips and everything in the website. You guys have just been awesome. I'm striving to try to be like you guys with my podcast.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Appreciate that, bro. It's all about the love of the game, man. It's just what we do.
Absolutely. You guys have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Take it easy, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, that's a full show. We were like, we'll go an hour this time. Every time. It's like an hour and 45. We'll never go.
I don't even remember we did an hour. I think the last time we did an hour show was maybe a Thursday night show.
I think it was like a test show maybe for this, for this season.
The Boxing MMA show was win an hour. So I don't think we've ever done an hour show. Maybe a post game, maybe win an hour.
But it's all good. It's great content. I'm happy we talked politics for a couple of moments. I think it's important to talk about that moment in history, as we see it. We promise you that we're not a politics podcast. It's something that we strive to keep out of it, for the most part. But I think, it's a part of life, and it can't be completely forgotten as well. And, hopefully the Washington football team gets a big win over the Lions, and we can look forward to a victory Monday next week, because those are always a lot more fun than talking about how many times you can blow a game. But I thought we did a good job dissecting it and talking about some of hopefully the path forward for the Washington football team.
Yeah, no doubt. There's still work to do. Got work to put in, but like we talked about during the segment, there are things that they are doing that if you can take a step back and look at the big picture, like I'm not saying no shade here, but like football guys do, and you see some of the things that's going on. It might not necessarily translate in the wins department, but there are other things going on. Unfortunately, you know, they are where they are in the win department, but there are being strides are being made. They're trying to figure themselves out. We seeing who's good, who's not good, who needs better, to be better. I mean, so it's it's a learning experience and a rebuilding experience. Just hope everybody remembers that. It's halftime in the Monday Night Football game. The Jets got a late touchdown by, as I just mentioned, Jamison Crowder as playing for me tonight in fantasy football. I'm now up by like 30 points, so this game's pretty much over. But he just scored a nice touchdown, dragging his feet in the end zone to make it 20-10. Jets with the halftime lead, looking to get their first victory of the season. They're sitting at 0-8. The Patriots are 2-5. So that's an interesting game.
Like whenever we all pick the same and everybody picked the Patriots, it ends up being a loss. Like I'm looking through this whole week, like everybody but Arun picked Washington. I'm kicking myself. You know me, Carol. I always bet against us, and the one time I really thought we were gonna win, but then I just looked through it, and there's a lot of these games where almost the Cowboys, they almost beat the Steelers. I mean, you got it right about the Dolphins. I'll give you a lot of credit, but a lot of people thought the Cardinals, and very few people thought that the Saints were going to blow the brakes off of Tampa Bay. But it's a crazy week. It's a crazy NFL. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next week.
Well, I got Miami's defense and had their running back that just got put on the injured reserve. He was my most productive running back, Gaskin. He just went down, but luckily I got Christian McCaffrey back yesterday, who put up over 20 points, but then he has a shoulder injury. He's doubtful for next week. I'm never taking him as my franchise player again, I swear. He got me some points when he played, but he's been out 6 weeks with the high ankle sprain to come back and then hurt his shoulder against Kansas City, who they had a good showing against. Unfortunately, they couldn't close the deal. They lost by 2. I actually had a partner that bet online, didn't realize he bet on the line and not bet on the game. And the Kansas City had a 10-point spread to cover. And let's just say he lost like $1,600 on the bad click of a mouse button. So I know my situation right now is kind of tough, but it ain't $1,600 lost tough. So
yeah, real quickly before I go, I just saw the upcoming schedule of games, and there's only one game that really matters to the Washington football team other than them taking care of business. Like obviously they have to go to Detroit and somehow get a rebound victory, but the Giants play the Eagles. And the Cowboys, I believe, don't play, right? So the only game in the NFC East that matters towards our future is that game. We got to root for the Giants, right? We got to root for the Giants to beat the Eagles, and we all have 3 wins. That's what it's kind of interesting. I know that Brian's gone, but I just realized that we're gonna have to become Giants fans at least for next week if we want any shot at this path, because we can't let the Eagles have too many division victories. So it's going to be interesting. But what is your quick take on that game?
It's going to be ugly. I mean, it's going to be a division game that's going to be ugly. Probably come down to the last possession, or at least the fourth quarter. The Giants got some momentum from this game. The first game they won, they couldn't really be too proud of it because they lost. They won because of a missed 2-point, but they actually won this game. They, gave up some points and made it closer than it was, but they won the game. They didn't turn the ball over. They had good quarterback play, good running back play, defense played well for the most part. They, kept watching out the end zone. when they actually really needed it. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. Philly, they've been up and down. They're still leading the division. You know, quarterback situation, running back situation. I
They
got
looked so bad week one, right? I mean, it's just like we beat them. I was like, oh, Philly's done. And then it's like they're now the division leader, but they've only gotten 3 wins. So it's not like, yeah, they're some world beater, but it's just such a weird division. But I just, I saw that game and I was like, holy moly. It's almost like rock, paper, scissors, right? Like if the Eagles beat the Giants, like we beat the Eagles, it's just like, it's such a weird division. And it's, but anyway, well,
back.
yeah. All right. Well, we can get out of here. I saw that and I was like, I got to get your take on it real quick before.
No doubt, no doubt. But make sure you check us out. I know Robbie had the podcast stream up on all of our podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor. We got a couple of ones that I keep on forgetting to remember, but that happens. Make sure you check us out if you missed the show live or missed any part of it. Go back and check it out, or you can check it out on my YouTube channel, Carol Porter the Third. 3 eyes, letter number 3, on my Facebook page. I forgot to share it to the show page. I'll share it after the fact. Um, Go check out the website as always, sportsothp.com. Go check.
By the way, I put the link to yours in ours, so it
Okay,
is
yeah, I forgot to do it this week, so cool, cool. Normally I put the feed up, but I forgot
yeah,
to.
you can share it after. That's fine, but it was there. So
Yeah, so make sure you go check out the website, check out the apparel line, click the button. You get the District of Champions banner or the shirt that Robbie walk with a pillow in the background. Hit me up for the Sports OTHP apparel with Eric Kuza that we partnered up with. You see it in the green screen. You see the partnership. You see the logo. You know what it is. If you need any new, used, or pre-owned certified vehicle, come holler at me down at Honda in Waldorf, 2450 Crane Highway, North Mount Side, across from the Popeyes and the Lowe's, Waldorf, Maryland. Come ask for Carol Porter. We got great deals, great cars. End of the year. 2021 is coming in, so the 2020s in order. Got to get out of there. So you ready to make that move? Come holler at your boy, because we got the best cars, the best deals, and best customer service. Appreciate y'all as always checking out the show. Sports on the Hill podcast, True Radio Network, episode 202. DC Sports Without the Politics. It's not just a catchphrase. It's not just a motto. It's what we do, baby. I'm about to close this out with the Renegade video once again, Money Convo. If you check out the video, you might see a familiar face in there because I did make my acting debut in this video. So check it out. Let us know what you think. Y'all be safe, be blessed, and have a good night. Sports on the Hill podcast, True Radio Network, and we out.